This is Overcoming Hate Setback Series. The title is Haters Who Hate You Must Bear Their Own Burdens of Hate, Not You. So, what that essentially means is that the hate that a person feels for you or has directed towards you, you honestly just don't have the time. You don't have the time to bear that burden. They have hate in their heart and they are trying to get rid of it. And they're not going to sit down and try to figure out why they hate something or hate a person. That's too much of an emotional process, and it requires emotional regulation, meaning no cussing, no fighting, no violence, or something like that. The only way that people know how to handle situations is with violence. It's with yelling, with cussing, with hitting, with anything that can continue to project the hate onto somebody else, because they can't beat themselves up. They can't take their fist and uh, punch themselves in the eye. They can't take the fist and hit themselves upside the nose. So it's much easier to bring that fist to your face. Okay, it's much easier to bring that fist to your face, and so then they get the release, which in which in reality they are releasing that hate onto you. So then they come back like a typical abuser and apologize and say, I'm sorry and I won't do it again and please forgive me. Okay, things go well for a little bit because you forgive them. Okay, they get another release there. Okay, and then something happens again and then they hit you again. And this can be in a domestic violence situation, a romantic relationship. It can be friendship. It can be parent relationship. It can be any type of relationship where there's um, closeness, right? And so then they repeat the pattern, wash, rinse, and repeat. They repeat the pattern again, and then you have to forgive them all over again. Then it continues to happen until you catch it, until you catch the pattern of them doing it. And you'll know when you caught it because you say, every time I turn around, he's always upset. Every time I mention this, or every time he mentions this, or whatever, he's always upset. He gets upset. He starts flailing his arms. He starts yelling and crying and falling out on the floor. I'm tired of dealing with him like this. I'm tired of this because every time he does this, he sort of hits me, or or he comes at me. He gets in my face, and then I have to back up, and I have to tell him don't hit me and all that kind of stuff. And then somehow we end up on the floor and we're fighting. And I don't know. I just don't even know how it all happened. But I know one thing. I sure am tired of this. I can't do this anymore. When you say that, that's when you're saying that you now want to transfer the burden, that you don't want to wear the burden of their hate of you or of life or of someone else. You don't want to wear that burden anymore, because now not only do you have to wear or bear the burdens of your own life. You are an adult. You have a life that you have to carry out. You have bills that you have to pay. You got to take care of yourself as an adult. You already have enough life burden on you that you really can't afford to take on another person's burden. But when that happens, that can be a financial burden, right? The person always asking you for money. That could be a shelter burden. The person all of a sudden shows up at your door and say, "Hey, I need to move in." That could be a kid's burden, not in a negative way, but having to raise kids, right? Okay, um, that could be a mate, a romantic relationship burden, having to deal with your mate cheating, or having to deal with your mate not keeping a job or something like. Okay, you already have regular life burdens that you have to take care of and manage and help to move along and advance, etc. The person over here who continues to fall out on the floor like a toddler and won't solve his or her problems, okay, that's going to become an even greater burden to you, because it's going to affect your mental health, it's going to affect your physical health, your financial health, your relationship health that you have with someone else. It's going to affect all areas of your life. And as a solution to the problem, you're going to have to set boundaries. I remember a time there was a person who who wanted to get money from me every time I got my school money, and I ran my big mouth talking about how much money I got in school money. And so the person every time she knew that I was going to get a check, um, she already had her hand out. Okay, and again, I have to take full responsibility for it because I ran my mouth and I offered, or I let her ask and then I offered. Okay, well, I realized I was giving it to her and not loaning it to her, but I didn't catch it. I didn't see what I was doing because when you struggle with people pleasing, you don't always catch what you need to catch in terms of your relationships with people. And so I didn't catch it eventually. I caught it eventually. What happened was the money that I would give her will be the money that I needed for rent for the next semester until I got my next check. And so I realized that, and then when I would ask for it back, it was a loan to me. And that's when I started to catch it. And I said, I perceived it as, okay, it's a gift to you, but when I need it back, it's a loan to me. And then I have to pay back the loan to you. And then you're also asking for more money. So then that's a gift to you. And so I was so tired with that situation. I was so tired. I was so tired with that situation. So I began to pray and ask God. I said, Lord, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. Give me a solution for how to handle this. And so what happened was I calculated how much the rent was going to be up to February or March because I got the school check somewhere in January. And so I just wanted to cover February just in case there was an issue with the school money. And I told the person, I said, you know what? Sure, uh, you can borrow it because it is my February rent. When I tell you the dynamics of our relationship changed, oh, I mean in a snap, it changed. She immediately started to look at me in a despising, contemptuous, hateful way because she could no longer control my money, and she had to give it back. She had to give it back. And so when I said that was my February rent, by the time it came around, she had to give it back. And so there were a couple of times she still asked for money, but then once she realized the pattern that she would have to pay it back, she stopped asking. And then she started framing me as a problem, as a person who always needs money, when she was the one who was asking for money. Uh, as a person who always needs money, things like that. Well, come to find out, I mean, it all came to a brick wall when she had been crying wolf all that time. She didn't really need my money; she just wanted my money, and she had been crying wolf. And so, by the time she got to a point in her life where she actually needed it, she had to pay it back to me, and I had to take it. I had to take it because it was my February rent or whatever rent month it was, right? So I say all that to say I had to stop bearing the burden of that person crying wolf in their life. Haters who hate you must bear their own burdens of hate, not you. So her her ability to get money out of me using a crying wolf strategy, and then not being able to use that strategy anymore to get money out of me, created hate on the inside of her towards me. Now I feel like she's always had hate towards me, but uh, this I think when you call people on their financial gains, that's when the hate increases. Because if a person has been able to control you for so many years and they can't do it anymore, then that hate grows more. And so that hate just continued to develop. Um, um, and I decided that I was not going to bear any more burdens of other people's hate towards me. And it took some time. Now, I'm not saying this is something you may not have a financial issue with people, right? You may not have a financial issue with people. You may be the type of person who has learned early in life to set boundaries with finances. But there is something in your life where someone is able to cry wolf and pull at you. You just have to figure out what that is. Regardless, whatever decision you make concerning that is going to inspire hate. It's going to encourage them to hate you even more. And so instead of loving you, so then that basically reveals they had no love for you in the first place. They never had, because you shouldn't get so mad and angry. You may get mad and angry immediately, but it shouldn't be long term. It shouldn't be the type of hate that's going to be long term. So you cannot bear their hate. It's the same thing with black people today, bearing the hate of racism, the sting of racism, right? And every time there's a situation with a black person and a white person, there's always hate in the middle of it, or something, or being fueled from it, or so. Okay, at some point you just can't bear that hate anymore. You can't bear the burden of that hate. It's the same thing I say a lot of times about every once in a while Hollywood will want to put out this film about slavery. And it's never about it um being just the the capitalism aspect of it, right? It's always showing on film a black person being beaten on the back, right? Or a black person picking cotton, or a black person in slave wardrobe, a black person being um, tokenized, right? White person getting up in the face of a black person. It's always this sort of punking, let me punk you, right? And if it's always sort of like a humiliation ritual or something like that. Well, I'm tired of those films. And you get people in the comments, if you make a comment about it on Facebook or Twitter or something like that, you get people in the comments say, yeah, but we need to know about our history. We need to know. We have known plenty about our history. We About the history of slavery. We don't need to continue generation after generation bearing that burden on film. And that's what they want. They want to push the slavery, capitalism, colonialism strategies on film, so that we are always reminded. It's like a conditioning exercise. We are always conditioned and reminded about this particular thing. Not the fact that we've had black inventors, not the fact that we have educated black people, not the fact that black people have property and land, businesses, have excelled in sports and entertainment, and not the fact that we've done that. No, they want to remind us every time of that particular issue, and that's bearing the burden of the hate of the colonialists. They need to feel soothed. Every generation, they need to feel soothed. And so seeing a person hung up on a tree, seeing a person being hit by a whip, seeing a person being demoralized, compromised, or they need to see that. It's like a soothing. It's like something that hits the brain, and once they see it, they get their release. Okay, that is their burden. They need to address their burden of hate. It's time out for us taking on their burden of hate, because not only do we have to take on the burden of hate of being segregated and discriminated against and prejudiced and biased against, and only going to the colored sections, and only only dealing with our immediate communities and all that kind of stuff. And then the economic issues, the fallout, burning down our houses, burning down crosses, burning down our communities. Okay, now we have to deal with all of that, the effects of their hate. We shouldn't have to wear their burden of hate. If they hate us, they hate us. That's it. But you got to bear your own burden. So that's what I think. I feel like this means. So haters who hate you must bear their own burdens of hate, not you. Um, Visit reginawhitefavors.com for tips. Um, Thank you very much for listening.